Dr. Melissa Buckley, and I bring you greetings from the Coppin State University College of Behavioral and Social Sciences Social Work Department. And we are really proud that we were able to be a part of today's event. And so I don't want to delay any further. I would love to bring to the stage Councilman Zeke Cohen. Shout out to Zeke Cohen for everything that he did to make this possible.
Thank you first and foremost to the great Frederick Douglass High School for having us here today. Thank you to Coppin State University. For those that were there, we just had an incredible healing and haircuts resource fair. Thank you for putting us up. Thank you, of course, to our mayor, Jack Young, for leading the charge. Thank you to all of my colleagues who are here, Council President Brandon Scott, Councilman Leon Pinkett, Councilwoman Sneed, Councilman Henry, Councilwoman Vice President Sharon Green Middleton. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you, of course, to Senator Hayes, whose district we are in. Appreciate you. To Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings, my dear friend, thank you for being here. A little over a year ago, we had a mass shooting in my district. 4 people were shot. It was 3:50 in the afternoon. Holabird and Graceland Park Academy had just dismissed. Children walking home from school had to duck for cover to avoid being shot. Blood stained the pavement. But what I found most disturbing was that when I went the next day to check in on the children at Holabird Academy, it was as if nothing had happened. There were no additional clinicians. There was no crisis response team. A little girl described having to grab her 2-year-old brother and hide behind a slide in order to avoid being shot. And as she spoke, her hand trembled. And so we held a hearing in the City Council Education and Youth Committee. Then it was co-chaired with the Public Safety Committee, Council President Scott, on the violence facing our children. Gianna, Brianna, and Damani, 3 juniors from Frederick Douglass High School, came to testify. They shared their own experiences dealing with homelessness, food insecurity, a parent that was substance use disordered, persistent exposure to violence. These adverse childhood experiences forced them to be more resilient than any child should. And then just 1 year ago, their safe space was violated. There was a shooting right here in Frederick Douglass High School. The young people asked us, their elected leaders, why we focus so intensely on policing, yet had not addressed the trauma that fuels violence in our city. They called on us to step up and lead on this issue. So with the students, we wrote the Trauma Responsive Care Act. But the young people didn't stop there. They spoke out, they advocated, they demanded that we pass this bill. And I'm incredibly proud to report that my colleagues on the City Council voted unanimously to support the Trauma Responsive Care Act. This law will make Baltimore a national leader in the movement to mitigate trauma in cities and states. And it has been a journey. We spent the last year listening, hearing directly from people in pain. What I've learned from listening in libraries in laundromats, in rec centers, in barber shops, and in classrooms across our city is that we, all of us here today, are the medicine. No one is coming to save us. We have to heal ourselves. This work requires deep relationships and the will to show up for our children when they are crying out. And as a city forged in steel and grit, Baltimore has the capacity to heal our own wounds. But if we are going to end the bloodshed, we will need to unite like never before. Doctors must work with barbers, educators, nonprofit directors, professors, business owners, foundation leaders, elected officials, returning citizens, scientists, mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters. We must all put aside our egos and work together. Just today, over 20 barbers and braiders gave free haircuts across the street at Coppin State because they are the unsung heroes. Because they are the unsung heroes and clinicians of our communities. On Friday, we held Youth Healing Day at Morgan State. A little girl got up and shared her battle with thoughts of suicide. You could hear a pin drop. And then 300 young people lifted her up with love, compassion, and affirmation. They shared in her sorrow, and they reveled in her presence. That's what a healing city looks like. It is deep, boundless love. It is a willingness to stand together in our pain. We can end the violence, but this cannot be a moment, but a sustained movement for justice, peace, and healing. Before I introduce the students who helped to get us here, I want to introduce someone who has consistently stood up for our children. He created the Youth Fund because he knew that we needed to do more. He created the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success with the incredible Tisha Edwards because he knew that our children needed a cabinet-level position advocating for them. I also do want to recognize our great Health Commissioner, Dr. Jaraza, who's here as well. I am grateful for his partnership and for his leadership. Please welcome our mayor, Mayor Jack Young.
Good evening, everyone. Councilman Cohen made it easy. I don't have to rehash naming all of the elected leaders that are here. But thank you to everyone for being here this evening. Thank you, Frederick Douglass High School, for hosting this landmark occasion for our city. And thank you again, Councilman Zeke Cohen, for your leadership and your commitment to making Baltimore better for all of our children. I know that we look back at this legislation and it will be considered a turning point in shifting the culture of Baltimore. Today is important and inspiring, and I'm honored to be here with all of you today. The Elijah Cummings Healing City Act is a mandate to reduce trauma that far too many of our city residents face and calls upon us to build resilience to become a healing city. 42% of our children experience 3 of more traumatic events before they reach adulthood. This bill is an acknowledgement by our community and our city council that we must take clear and immediate steps to decrease trauma in our city. The call to action to move this work forward was fully supported by our visionary leader and my dear friend, the late United States Congressman Elijah Cummings. Today's bill signing, the walk you just took from Coppin State University here to Frederick Douglass High School, the Healing City of Baltimore activities you have all been a part of this weekend, and the many months of work by so many people is really a movement. And we know that grassroots movements can make great things happen. So please know I stand here with you today, ready to do my part to build on this movement. to fulfill Elijah's vision and to make Baltimore the healing city that our children and family need and deserve. The Elijah Cummings Healing City Act will drive city agencies to promote healing and safety and engage with residents with a trauma-informed sensibility. The legislation called for the Office of Children and Family Success, in partnership with the trauma team, to review city policies, programs, and practice and apply them through a trauma-informed lens. The Health Department will train agency employees to uphold new and improved policy, programs, and practice. Last year, the Health Department Office of Youth and Trauma Services trained more than 1,200 city employees, community organizations, and community leaders on a trauma-informed approach. We will continue that work until we are a trauma-informed city. I'm committed to do everything that I can to prevent trauma, especially amongst our children. And together, we will make sure our children and family have the chance to heal from the trauma they have already faced, overcome them, and move forward with healthy, promising futures. And on that note, I just want to thank everybody who had a part in making sure that all our young people was marching from Compton to Frederick Douglass, and that we got here safe. And I just want to thank everybody for all that you do. And like the councilman said, we need every hand on deck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Young. This legislation would not have happened if it were not for our young people. They called for it, they pushed for it, they demanded it, and so now it is my great honor and distinction to bring up Brianna, Jayana, and Damani to come stand in solidarity and speak about this work.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Harris, and I am a senior here at Frederick Douglass High School. I want to first thank everyone who has supported and stood in solidarity with this bill. None of this could have happened without you all. This is a true example of what we can accomplish when we come together as a community. A year ago, I can tell you, I would have never imagined this would happen. It's hard to get people to open up about something they don't know they deal with. I was so normalized to trauma that I became numb to it. And so I moved through life with the idea that I was fine, but all along I wasn't. And so many other people in our city are not okay. There are too many issues that we have turned a blind eye to, and that time is now over. We are not only pinpointing the issues, but also finding the appropriate solutions. This past year has taught me so much. It has taught me that you have to go after what you believe in. You can't let the fear of what if stop you. You'll never know what the outcome will be if you don't take the jump. We can't wait around and expect change to magically happen. We have to go after change ourselves. Look it straight in the eye and say, I'm coming for you. I'm so proud of what we have accomplished. We turned a dream into a reality, and this is only the beginning. From this day forward, Baltimore, we are a healing city. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jayana Santos, and I want to thank everyone who helped fight for this legislation. I decided to start with a quote. So, at the end of his play, King Lear, Shakespeare says, "The way of these sad times we must obey. Speak what we feel, not what we ought to say. Speaking what we feel is no easy task, especially for the youth of Baltimore who sadly have normalized the traumatic experiences they surround themselves with. This is dangerous and a temporary comfort. To normalize trauma means withholding the emotions which often result in disruptive behavior. Personally, I have too become affected by my own burden emotions, which I acknowledge caused me to make bad decisions, which without the guidance of those who cared about me, could have seriously altered my future. I did not understand the serious role trauma played in my life. But everything changed after I testified about my trauma at City Hall last year. I wish that it didn't require the damaging experience of a school shooting which happened at a place where students should always feel safe, for us to realize this fact. But with this bill, we are making sure that good can come from that terrifying experience. This traumatic moment in my life sparked action. It caused Councilman Cohen and everyone else who made this bill possible to do something to address the suffering that people feel. It was time for a change in our city. It was a wake-up call for this place that we all call home. Even though I've learned how to camouflage my traumatic experience as just part of my daily life, which is a sickening thing to do as a young person still growing up into her adult years, I am learning to make self-care a priority. This is why I believe in this legislation so much. This whole entire process has shown me why it's important to share your trauma. Not for a person's career or to help someone move up in their jobs, but for yourself, so that you can actually move on healthier and wiser. You share your trauma to gain healing for yourself. I realized that I needed to be vulnerable and not just myself, but everyone, because I want the next generation to feel welcome, respected, and free to express any unfiltered emotions, because it can heal our city, so that finally we can come together as one. Thank you.
And again, I want to just acknowledge Damani as well, who's been an exceptional part of this effort. Give it up for him. This is not just Baltimore's future, but this is our today, and it's these young people that help lead this work forward. So please give them one more big round of applause. Mayor Young said it before, but this work started with Congressman Elijah Cummings. Congressman Cummings was, throughout his entire life and career, a champion for children. But especially at the end, he elevated this issue, dealing with childhood trauma, to the national stage. He held the first ever congressional hearing on childhood trauma, and then he brought it home to Baltimore. And he called on us, collectively, many of the people in this auditorium here, to come together and solve this issue. And so there was nothing I could do but amend this bill to rename it the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act. And I know he is up there right now looking down on us, urging us to keep this work moving. And he used to say, you need to take your pain and turn it into passion and turn it into your purpose. And along his side, doing this work as well, was my Iraqi Moore Cummings. Dr. Cummings, throughout her career, has been a tremendous advocate for young people, for women, for people of color, for public health, and so it is an honor to bring her up to speak as well.
Good afternoon. In the words of Elijah Cummings, come on, we can do better than that. Good afternoon. Zeke, he is up there and he is absolutely looking down on us and feeling not just happy that we've brought this bill to fruition, but also proud of the work that you've led, proud of the work that you've worked on with the city council, with the youth, with the mayor to get done. Elijah was always about not just being, talking about it, but being about the business of doing it. And so at the end of the day, it's about what did we get done? And so absolutely today is a historic first step. But I have to back up and let you know why Elijah became so passionate about this in his last years. It all came back down to 2015 and the Freddie Gray unrest, not too far from here on the corner of Penn and North. We were out there night after night, and there was a young man who was out there bucking against the police. I mean, they had their full gear on. I don't know if you all remember, there were tanks here on the streets of Baltimore. There were tanks that were lined up on the streets, and the police were out there in their combat gear, ready to take on the residents of Baltimore, and young people were on the front lines bucking against that. And Elijah was just like, he saw a young man and he was just like going out and cussing in front of the police officers. And he was just like, man, get back. And the young man was just like, man, I'm tired of this stuff. I feel, and he told Elijah, every day I wake up in this city and I feel like I wake up in a coffin. And I spend my day trying to claw my way out. That blew his mind. Here in an American city, in the richest nation in the world, we have young people who feel like they have no future. He said, we can do better than that. We must be better than that. And he became determined to focus on what we could do. And what he realized right then and there, after he came back the next night and saw the same young brother that he had hugged the night before, and he had surrounded him with his love and said, I love you, brother. I love you. The brother came back. The same brother that was bucking against the system, that was trying to go against the police who were fully armed. And he said to him, brother, you're back. And he said, yeah, I'm back. You said you love me. I never had a man tell me he loved me before until you did last night. And Elijah was just absolutely determined to do something about this. He recognized that hurt people hurt people. And we will never pour enough dollars into the police department. We will never pour enough money in terms of having more guns and doing more rounds in the community if we don't get to the root causes of the problem. And one of the root causes right here in this city is that we have too many young people who are exposed to death and dying and violence at early ages. We have young people before the age of 10 who have lost siblings, who have lost parents to violence. They look around and they see adults resolving their difference in their disputes with violence. And so it's no wonder that they then become to think that, in order to resolve disputes, in order to solve issues, I must do it with violence. And so what we have created is a traumatic cycle of violence that is driving the murders in our city, and we've got to stop it.
Right.
And this Elijah Cummings Healing City Act is the first step for stopping it. Because what we're doing is getting to the root causes. There are people that are traumatized. They need psychological support. They need trauma-informed programming, both in schools and in communities. We need to identify young people, like this bill does, who are at risk for violence, and have those interventions to help them realize how to resolve differences without resorting to violence. We need to actually make sure that they know how to respect each other as human beings, and that this is an important part of life is love. Love, support, opportunity. This is the first step. And, Brianna, self-care, self-care, self-care. Now let me just end with this. We just came from Coppin, and it was a party over at Coppin. People were happy over at Coppin. We had folks dancing in the hallways over at Coppin. People felt safe and secure, and young people felt safe and secure over at Coppin. They were getting their hair done. They were talking to each other. They were dancing. It was wonderful. And get this, there are communities where that is happening all the time. Our aspiration is to become that kind of community where happiness and safety and security are sustainable across our city. And so I just want to end by saying this. Elijah always said, our children are the living messages that we send to a future we will never see. He always said, the only question is, what kind of message are we sending? With this act, we are sending a message of hope. Healthy and safe communities, opportunities for youth, prosperous families, and equitable development and economic justice. And so with that, I'm just ending by saying that what Zeke Cohen, Councilman Cohen said, sustained movement for justice, peace, and equality and healing is absolutely correct. And all of us are a part of it. And I look forward to doing my part. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So part of the process has been making sure that this bill got passed. And I've been really proud and honored to work with all of my colleagues on the council, Councilman Burnett, who could not be here today, but who chaired the health committee that ushered it through. But I again want to thank Council President Scott for his leadership in making sure this bill got passed, got its hearing, got all the way through. So Council President Scott, come say some words.
Good afternoon. Now, I normally say it, but since Dr. Cummings already said it, I'm not going to say it again, but we know we can do better than that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is my honor and privilege to be here for this most important occasion, and pride, Zeke, is the word that comes to mind. Today, I am proud to lead a city council that truly understands that only by healing Baltimore from its deep generational trauma will we ever truly be the best Baltimore we can be. Today, this is what we're talking about. We have to understand, and we say it time and time again, that violence is a public health issue, and we have to treat it as such. We have to cure violence in Baltimore. And there was a time when Zeke first got on the council, and the mayor was the president of the council, when we said that, and people said we were out of our minds. They said, Brandon, what are you talking about? Violence is not a public health issue. And I said, well, it's one of the top ways that people in my city die. I think that's a public health issue. We understand, Zeke, that they tell us consistently that they know what the young people in Baltimore want. That young people in Baltimore don't want better for themselves, that they are okay with losing their friends, they are okay with dealing with the trauma they live in, they are okay with the conditions in their neighborhood. But if they didn't know now, they know. Then not only do the young people in Baltimore want better for themselves and for their community and for their city and for their families, they led us to this point. The youth led the adults to making Baltimore a trauma-informed city. So let's give them another round of applause. because that's what this is truly about. I wish when I was their age that we had a council that understood trauma. What if Baltimore became a trauma-informed city in the year 2000? How many more lives would we have saved? How many of my friends who are gone that would still be here today? How different would my life be? Today, we are going to become a trauma-informed city, and that is how we're going to lead the way. This is how we're going to heal Baltimore. This is how we're going to save lives, by reaching out and touching each and every soul with the care and touch that they need, so that one day we can heal every soul, ease every mind, and blaze a path for Baltimore to be the best Baltimore it can be. So thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most importantly, thank you, young people, and thank you all. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is just the beginning. Now, all of us have to go out, Dr. Cummings, and heal Lottie, Dottie, and everybody in Baltimore. Thank you very much.
All right, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank a few more people before we sign this bill. First of all, often we get to go up here, elected officials, and talk, but we know that a lot of the work, in fact, most of the work, happens behind the scenes with staff. And so I want to thank, first and foremost, Ann Coy for all the organizing. From my team, Miriam, Flannery, Daniel, Nick, all the folks that made this happen. I also want to acknowledge my wife, Rena Ardeshna, and my father-in-law, Hazmat Patel, who are here. And then finally, if you are a part of this healing city, will you please give yourselves a round of applause? This is about us. Now let's sign this bill.
All right.
It is my pleasure, as Elijah Cummings is dancing with the angels in heaven, and now he's looking over the balconies of heaven, to sign into law this ordinance.